In just 83 days of Piggy's release, the game set a new Roblox record, becoming the fastest game to hit 1 billion visits. At its peak, it was common to see the game with over 500,000 active players. However, today Piggy has lost nearly 97% of its player base, with it struggling to pull even 10 to 15,000 active players. From Roblox's most popular game to it becoming a forgotten memory, you might be wondering, where did everything go so wrong? To find out, we first need to understand how the game was created. In January of 2020, a Roblox developer going by the name of Minitoon would be messing around with his friends, playing random horror games. He would stumble upon a low-quality Peppa Pig game. Thinking the idea was funny, he wanted to create his own improved version for him and his friends to play in. He would combine the horror escape game Granny with Peppa Pig, and after just 5 days of development, he would officially release the first version of Piggy. While previously, Minitoon had released a couple of Roblox games, none of them really went beyond a couple hundred active players. With Minitoon having little expectations for Piggy, you can imagine his surprise when a single YouTube video upload would change everything. For the first few days, the game would have only a handful of players, but just 4 days later, one of the biggest Roblox YouTubers, Flamingo, would stumble upon Piggy and decided to post a video playing the game.
Piggy, it's supposed to be a Granny, but it's Peppa the Pig!
With the video garnering millions of views. Following this, Piggy's active player count would spike to over 5,000. The comedic contrast of an innocent kids show character with a horror setting created a concept that appealed perfectly to the Roblox demographic. That, combined with the endless supply of funny and jump scare filled moments, made the game perfect for YouTube.
Oh, I hate you all. You all suck!
It wouldn't be long before other content creators caught on, and things would quickly get exponentially better. Within just 83 days of its release, it would go on to hit 1 billion total visits, setting a new Roblox record along the way. But while Piggy's concept had a strong foundation, there was one key factor that allowed it to rapidly gain so much success. In early 2020, as the world shut down because of the pandemic, a massive wave of new players flooded Roblox. In just 6 months, the platform's daily active users nearly doubled, going from 19 million to over 33 million. These new players were hungry for the next big game, and with videos on Piggy regularly hitting tens of millions of views, the game would find itself perfectly positioned at the center of this storm. However, with this success, a problem would begin to come to light. In the world of Roblox, attention shifts very quickly. If you don't give players a reason to return, you quickly become another forgotten Roblox game. At the time, the gameplay was very simple. You solve puzzles while avoiding Piggy's attacks before finding the exit and escaping. It was a fun and challenging escape game, but it was also quite basic. With the game exploding so quickly, and this being Minitoon's first major success, he never really had much time to refine the game. With its core loop being so simple and repetitive, he would need to come up with something quick. While most developers would probably focus on improving the game's mechanics, Minitoon took an unorthodox approach, putting all of his effort into creating a massive storyline. Each update would introduce more characters and deepen the plot, and by ending the chapters on cliffhangers, players had a strong reason to return. This episodic format ended up working like a charm. The constant stream of new updates created a fresh supply of content for YouTubers, in turn promoting the game to millions of new players. Following updates, it was common to see the game with well over 500,000 active players, becoming Roblox's 10th most played game of all time. The game would even find success outside of the Roblox world, with Walmart's toy section carrying official Piggy merchandise. The addition of this storyline also allowed the game to develop a heavily invested fandom. Players would take to Reddit discussing new theories for future updates, creating detailed fan art, and even role-playing their own stories. While it's hard to see how this could be a negative, a borderline overly invested fandom also comes with its fair share of problems. Most of Piggy's fanbase is filled with parasocial, cringe 11-year-olds who take the game too seriously. Makes me not want to play. For example, when Minitoon would announce that Chapter 11 was taking him longer than expected, this would be met with a bombardment of hate, with some even going far as sending Minitoon death threats. While this toxic fanbase would alienate some of the casual player base, considering Piggy's level of success, the effect of this would still be pretty insignificant. However, all of this success would also plant the seeds of the game's eventual downfall. While previously, updates would spike the player count to record-breaking numbers, just a couple months later, the new chapters hardly attracted a fraction of its former success. The lore is just so bad and stupid. It started off as something funny, but then changed into a cringe and dumb mess. You see, Minitoon would be forced to build an increasingly complex storyline around a game that was at its core just a Peppa Pig horror game created as a joke. There was only so much you could add to it before the novel concept of the game was lost. The game's young player base would also find this increasingly complex lore hard to keep up with. While this was bad, there was still a huge problem that would further deteriorate Piggy's player base, with it struggling to pull even 10 to 15,000 active players. If we take a look at Murder Mystery 2, which was released nearly 12 years ago but can still be found on the front page of Roblox, there is one big difference. In Murder Mystery 2, the game's roles of sheriff, murderer, and innocent are randomized every game. No matter how many times you play, each time you get a fresh experience. In Piggy's case, however, its underlying gameplay would grow repetitive. Once the puzzles were solved and the element of discovery was gone, players had little reason to return. The game was cool at first, but after 10 minutes, you realize it's just someone running around chasing a player. To make things even worse, Minitoon would bring an end to what made the game so popular in the first place. With the release of the last chapter in Book 2, he would announce the end of Piggy's main storyline. In an attempt to increase Piggy's longevity, Minitoon would add new seasons and event-based updates, but players who were used to the original chapter format weren't too fond of this new style of updates. Combine that with much longer time between these new updates, and this would be the final nail in the coffin. This decline would be an unavoidable consequence of the game's rapid and explosive growth.